would say that that's been my greatest strength as a business owner is
burnout is real. A lot of
real.
people face this.
Well, you get paid 1 to 3 cents for AdSense on YouTube. So like you get 100,000 views, you're getting paid $3,000 max.
Right.
And think about how hard it is to generate 100,000 views and how many videos realistically make it to that level.
You're like
Then
the Marie
they don't do
Kondo
it.
of content, right? It's like, does this spark joy? Is this necessary to get you there?
Okay.
Okay.
We're doing this.
Nice. Awesome.
Are we actually rolling on this? This is incredible.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Okay.
When we were filming, we did a whole bunch of these in LA, and the rule was like, be rolling before they come in.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so they would come in, and it was like I wouldn't even talk to them until they sat in the seat with the mic, and then I'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And so we did a bunch of these kind of like not cold opens, but for them a cold open of just like, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes in, they're like, wait, we're in it, aren't we? And I'm like, yeah. And so we got a few things in that first bit where it's like, we actually had one person message after him, like, that thing I said, you can't use that.
Oh my
so we're
God.
like, no problem. Okay.
I like that. When I listen to podcasts, I like when it's like the preamble that like you don't really know is recorded. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't think I said anything I shouldn't have said. So
No,
we're
you're
good.
You're
Okay,
good.
great.
Yeah. We talked mostly about octopus. Octopuses, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Okay. This is jarring change of course,
Yeah,
but
it is. What a segue.
Yeah. I'd love to understand why you do what you do.
Oh man. Honestly, it's goes back to just I felt like for most of my life I was always trying to sort of scream to be heard, which sounds strange. But I kind of was fascinated by like finding my own voice and helping other people find their voice. And I got into journalism because as a kid, I would watch Oprah and I would watch all these people on TV and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just helping people tell their stories and everybody has a story to tell. And I really do believe that. And so I think my mission is really just to empower people, especially people who are really good at what they do and they've dedicated their lives to it, but they're not really able to go beyond the constraints of sort of like traditional business. And so empowering them to be valued for what they do and for all the time they put into it and really be able to like elevate their impact in a way that they're able to reach people around the world who need them, but wouldn't be able to in that traditional business model. That was a long-winded answer, but that's why I do what I do.
How do you think about personal brand versus a non-personal, right? Because so many of the people you work with and definitely yourself, like there is a brand around Sunny, right? How does that play into it for you?
Man, this is a nuanced answer. I see value in a personal brand, but with time and a lot of time doing what I do and building my own brand, if I could go back in time, I probably would have done things differently in the sense that I actually think the core of a good personal brand or brand in general is proof and results. And I think we went through like an era of personal brand, which was like shout from the rooftops, look really cool. You know what I mean? So that for me is not helpful or valuable to anybody, that kind of a personal brand. And I think the strongest personal brand that can actually stand the test of time is actually based around what you do and what you're really great at and the authority you built around it. And that's something that people will always want to come to you for. Whereas when you build a brand strictly on who you are as a person, it's kind of fleeting. And also we live in a society that like we like to build people up and then we like to tear them down. So I just see that as a temporary way to build a brand or a business. Whereas your values ultimately and what you're good at can kind of shine through anything that you do, whether that's personal or a corporate brand.
So that first one that's not as good of a personal brand seems like it's more surface level.
Very.
It's sort of here I am and here's who I am. That's it.
Take it or leave it,
As opposed to the other, which seems more, is it about outcomes? Like actually results and outcomes?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's at the root of like ultimately how we work with our clients too. It's like the basis of what they're doing has to be found in how they're ultimately serving people and the outcome that they can actually provide to people and the value of that. And that really is their value. That's what they do for the world. That's how they serve people. That's their brand. Whereas when you're building a brand centered around like, look at me because I'm funny and look at me because I'm interesting and look at me because, you know, I'm putting on this show. And for some people, that's how they want to live their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I do see that as fleeting. And I might sound old when I say this, but I've just been in this industry for so long that I've just seen a lot of people build their brand around that.
Yep.
And then it comes crashing down eventually.
Right.
Or they get sick of it because they're constantly having to put on a show and perform for that validation and for, honestly, monetization in most cases too.
Yeah, and that it does seem like that is a little more entertainment versus substantive results and delivery of a different level. Not that there isn't value to entertainment, but even on the entertainment side, even when you look at the Jon Stewarts of the world, right? Like he's back doing a show, but it's once a week, right?
Yes.
Whereas it used to be 5 days, 6 days a week, something like that.
Well,
so I think there's that burnout even at the highest levels of entertainment.
Yeah, because you're human at the end of the day. And I think that having kind of played both games, I do look at it as very distinct paths. And if you go the route of being a content creator specifically, and you're really just making content to, entertain people, and there's nothing sort of behind that, it is really hard to sustain. And even like Casey Neistat, I remember he went through a huge burnout years ago, and he was like one of the biggest YouTubers at the time. And it's because you're a human being and you can't function that way forever. It's not sustainable. Whereas when you build a brand around who you serve and what you ultimately want to be known for, that's transferable. So if you do ultimately want to get it to a place where maybe you aren't the face of it anymore, that's doable because you have results to show for it. You have a proven offer to show for it. You actually have a business to kind of back it up.
Right. So potentially taking funding, exiting, liquidity,
exactly,
bringing on other partners, not going on vacation.
Yes.
All of these things become possible when it's not entirely reliant on you every single day producing.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned, I want to keep going down that path and a little bit get into it. I know you've built a team and gone through phases of how you run the business, but you mentioned everybody's got a story. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about how you see your story or share your story.
My story really started as I wanted to be a journalist. That's the kind of the route that I took. And my ultimate goal was to work at the Olympics and also become the 6 o'clock news anchor. I was like, if I could do those two things, I've made it in life and I can just check out. And then I started down that path. I went to broadcasting school. I got a job in radio, and then I started working in TV, and then I got a job at the Olympics, and I was living in Whistler for the Olympics while they were here. And during those 2 weeks, it was kind of this like existential crisis of like, okay, I'm here and I should be so happy that I'm here and doing this, and I hate it. I hate it deeply. And it mainly was because I had a vision of what I thought it was going to look like. I had expectations of what I thought it was going to look like, and it wasn't. And a big part of that was that I wasn't able to tell stories in the way that I wanted to, or choose the stories I was telling. It's kind of like, go here, do this, wear that. Right. So on my drive home, I was like, I'm going to start a business. Complete ignorance. Never started a business in my life. Had no experience in it. And I started an online magazine. It's laughable when I think about it now, but I monetized it through ads. So I would literally go door knocking and sell advertising. And I remember the first person, it was like men's spa kind of, and they paid $500 to place an ad on the site. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at me go. I'm an entrepreneur. And I ran that for like, I think it was less than a year. And the thing was like, it barely made money, but I learned how to leverage organic marketing, which wasn't like a massive industry at that time. I was doing social media before most people were using it as like a business strategy. And I actually was told in the beginning, you really shouldn't be focusing on this because it's not a long-term thing. This isn't going to last. It's a trend.
Social's a fad.
Social's a fad. Yeah, social media is a fad. And one of my bosses told me that. And I was like, something in my intuition was like, no, it's not. And I think I'm on to something here. And I was getting all these companies and people coming to me being like, how are you getting this word of mouth? How are you getting this like, awareness about what you're doing? So I started applying my strategy that I'd used for my business, quote unquote, and started applying it to corporate clients, like individuals, authors, all these kinds of people. And it was working really well, to the point where I had a lot of demand to work with me. And then I got caught in the trap of I don't have enough hours to do all of this work. And I was kind of just hitting what we call like the income and impact ceiling. So once I got there, my clients were asking the same questions all the time. And I was like, instead of, getting on more meetings or taking phone calls and wasting more time, because I don't have a lot of it, I'm just gonna start making YouTube tutorials for them. So I made a YouTube tutorial about how to live stream for your business, sent it to my clients, had no audience at the time. And I woke up the next day and I was like, where did all these views come from? reverse engineered it, realized
had a few thousand views the next, like the day after you launched it, even though you only sent it to a few dozen people.
Yes.
Right.
And I had all these emails in my inbox too of people wanting to work with me in like that first week. And I was like, what's going on? How is this happening? And I realized, okay, well, YouTube's a search engine owned by the largest search engine in the world. So people are looking up this topic and I'm the first to make a video on it. So what if I just made social media tutorials? I had already been doing social media for so long for these clients. I knew a lot. So I was like, I'm just going to make one a week and test it and see what happens. And in that first year, I think it was, 50,000 subscribers, 3 million views, and a lot of demand. So I was getting like flown to speak at all these places. I got flown to NATO's headquarters to speak to like their delegates and NASA and like the United States Army. It was wild. And then spoke at all these other events, but the same thing was happening. So even though it was like, okay, I was like successful, I was getting all this clout, I was so tired and so burnt out and I just didn't have enough time to do anything else. So I discovered online courses. I met with you through an introduction and I was like, this is a whole new world. What is this? And started diving into it, made my first course. It was terrible, but it did decently. And then I just kept optimizing from there. And then I made one course that did very well. We had about 10,000 members in it, but it was completely self-paced curriculum. And from that too, I kind of ran into the same problem where it was like there was so much support required for it for people who actually weren't taking the program really seriously. So then I evolved, optimized, and created a new methodology and started testing it, put it into the program we have now. Now we only have one online program. We've been running for 5 years now. And we have just under 4,000 members. So,
wow. Yeah. Amazing.
That's my story.
Wow. Yes. And there's so much there I want to unpack. I mean, you mentioned at one point, first person to make a video on this topic. It's hard to imagine that existing now
right?
on YouTube.
Supply and demand is a wild thing now.
Yes.
Because there are way too many creators. there's way too much information. Yeah. So at that time, which was 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, I really was the first and only person to make video on that topic. And then some more people started talking about it. But like, I think I was one of the only like social media experts on YouTube at the time, which is insane nowadays. Yeah. So there's just so much supply, but that's why it works in the favor of somebody who's actually got something behind their content, like an online program, because people are overwhelmed with gurus. We have like guru fatigue and we have content fatigue. So people are looking for the person who's the biggest authority, provides the most value, and actually can help them. And if that person has a transformation they can actually deliver to them through an online program, they're going to do quite well. And when I say big authority, I'm not even saying you need to have a big audience. A lot of our clients who do incredibly well have teeny tiny audiences, but targeted audiences. And the content they share for free online is so overwhelmingly valuable that people are like, oh, you're the only person I want to work with. So it's funny because like at that time I was able to stand out because there was not a lot of supply, and now there's so much. And so the way to stand out now is like over delivering in terms of the value and your expertise and your credibility behind what you do.
So you're not going to be the only video, but you over deliver on the value,
exactly.
Establish that expertise, and then have something to back it up.
Yeah, because I think also what's happened is like there's so much content and it's so glamorized to be a content creator when it's really, really hard. There was like a recent stat that said 48% of just strictly content creators are making less than $1,000 a month, but they're working their butts off to like try and make money online. And so I think there's a lot of people who sort of start making content on topics that they've maybe read a book on or watched a YouTube video on, and they don't really have the authority or expertise. So it's actually, I think, quite easy to stand out if you actually know what you're talking about.
Or they're doing the entertainment route where it's just, I mean, that's a slog, right?
That's a slog.
Yeah.
That's a rough game.
Not low margin, but low percent, like dollar per view kind of.
Oh my God.
RPM.
Well, you get paid 1 to 3 cents for AdSense on YouTube. So like you get 100,000 views, you're getting paid $3,000 max. Right. And think about how hard it is to generate 100,000 views and how many videos realistically make it to that level. So
100,000 views for you, can I ask, what would that translate to in terms of sales in your program?
I mean, I can actually tell you. So we had a video recently. I think there was, I'm going to mess up the number, but I think there's 6,000 or 7,000 views on it, and we did 178K in revenue from that video in the first week.
Okay.
So it's a different game. And the reason that I'm such a proponent, and this is part of the strategy we teach our clients, is like it allows you control from day one of starting your content creation. Yeah. So we've had clients I'll give you one example. So one of our clients years ago, he teaches people how to pass the certified management accountant exam, which I think you can actually relate to. So certified management accountant exam, that's what his program is on. Yeah. And he put out his first video ever on his channel, and within 2 hours, he generated his first almost $700 sale. So think about how long it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And then you're like barely scraping by because your videos are probably not getting a decent amount of views at that rate. Whereas our clients from the very beginning are able to monetize through something that they own, which is their online program.
Yeah. And I mean, at that 7,000 views, 170 something thousand in revenue, you're talking what, $25 a view?
Yeah. So we do that.
Like,
we do that math. It's like it's $1 per view or $1 per sub. And I encourage people to do that because when you look at the cold hard facts of it, it's kind of depressing if you're only relying on like AdSense monetization. But if you're monetizing through a product or a program, your number is going to be a lot higher.
So also in that story, you've sort of touched on a few points of hitting some ceilings. And I know even in chats with you, you were good at saying no. I remember a couple of times I was like, hey, Sunny, can you do this? And you're like, no.
No.
I'm like, you don't often hear that from entrepreneurs, but it is such a good, and you explained it to me too. It was totally fine. That you did. And it was great. But I think you've maybe talked to us through a little bit about saying no and how you figure out when to and when. And
I've kind of become like the queen of no throughout the years.
Which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of, because burnout is real. A lot of people face this.
I mean, and I went through burnout. So in 2017, I landed in the hospital, had all the symptoms of a stroke at 29 years old, was rushed to the hospital. They did all the tests on me. And it turned out it was just a really severe case of burnout and a really severe anxiety attack on top of that. And it took me years to recover from it. So I kind of was forced to get really good at prioritizing. And I would say that that's been my greatest strength as a business owner is saying no more than I say yes. The irony is once you start to become quote unquote successful, you start to inevitably get more things coming to you. You get more opportunities and people want to work with you and all these things you've always dreamed of happen.
Yeah.
But then it's like if you buy into that and you do all of those things, you're actually going to destroy the thing that you worked so hard to build. And so I still kind of live by that. Like the people that I say yes to, generally it's people I have a relationship with. And I can see mutual value in it as well because time is my greatest like asset, honestly. And it's the only thing that I can't make more of. And now, especially having a daughter, I'm like, I need to be really mindful of my time away from her. Yeah.
And even within that, relationships and something you have mutual value, do you have like a set of principles, values, rules where you're like, it's got to fit within this?
I think the biggest thing is, like there has to be some inherent value, which sounds, some people are not going to like that, but like there has to be some inherent value for me out of it. I always think kind of long-term with anybody that I say yes to. I'm like, okay, well, what's the long-term potential of this? Or is this sort of a flash in the pan and this person's going to disappear in a month? And I really had to sort of flip the script for myself because I think in the beginning I was saying yes to so many things because I just felt lucky to be asked. And then you get to a place where you're like, oh no, wait, they're also asking me because they need me for something. So I have to audit that as well. But I think my biggest qualifier is really what's the value.
And I think another way you've managed your time or scaled a bit is a bit in getting help, right? Team members. Sure. So how do you look at team and hiring and contractors and when do you approach it? And because I know you've had some variations in this and learned a lot over the years.
Oh yes. I don't think it's possible to build a team and not go through so many lessons. Like if you do, God bless, but I have certainly learned a lot about myself and about humans in this process. In the early days, I was like, I don't want a team. I can do this by myself. I have no desire to have a team, to lead a team, etc. And then once I started hiring people, I was like, oh, okay, wait, this is actually allowing me to do better work and to serve people at a higher level because my brain is not fried in a million different directions. But I will say I am like slow and steady wins the race when it comes to hiring. I'm like, until it's necessary and I have to, I won't hire.
So you doing it yourself for a while or this is so painful now, I have to have somebody doing it?
It's so painful I have to.
Okay.
And I think it comes in seasons. So I think, for me, we have a very lean team. It was very lean for a long, long time. And then I had a child and I was like, I'm in a season of my life where my time's more valuable than anything. So I will invest in getting my time back. Right. And even though it was like, pretty free and peaceful prior to having my daughter, I still was recognizing where I was bottlenecking things. And I still was recognizing where I was kind of still necessary in the business. And I wanted to get to a place where I was like, well, I don't have to be involved, but I want to be involved. And that's going to require me having very strategic hires as well.
So where's the team size at now for you? Or how many do you work with?
We're 11 right now.
11.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane to me. I know you have like
No,
hundreds,
that's
but, like,
a lot to it's a lot
nuts.
to manage.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, nuts.
I don't
yeah.
have 11 reports, right? So I think I'm at 4 now. So yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I have my like leadership team, even though
Yes,
it's a
that's
tiny
good.
team. I do have my leadership team, which is like a godsend. So,
Awesome.
and the great thing is like if I could give advice on hiring, I think I've made so many mistakes through the years, but I've also learned a lot. And we look at everything in our business. So when it comes to the program that we have, it's not like I wanted to create this program and be done with it in a year. I was like, no, this is something where I want to create a legacy from it. And I want the impact that I create on my clients to like live on after I'm gone. And we're seeing that in terms of the clients we accept into our program. I want to make sure that's someone I could work with for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And my team's the same. So we've gotten to a place where I'm like, if we bring you into the team, you're somebody that I could see myself working with for a long time. And the people on our team, like knock on all the wood, everyone's been there for quite some time, years and years. And some people are coming up on like 7 years with us. And that for me is everything. Because if you can find somebody great and you can build a good relationship with them, that's worth its weight in gold. You don't want to have this like high turnover and high churn that you have to deal with.
But they need to be good, obviously, in the role, not
Good.
require a lot of hands-on.
Handholding. Yeah. I think it's like a self-starter thing. I'm like, you don't have to be perfect at the role when you come in, but you have to be hungry and you have to have a willingness to learn and kind of treat the business as your own. Like those are my qualifiers. Yeah.
So you got some principles there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Other ways you think about time management? Because I know as a creator, it can be tough, especially having dealt with burnout and things. Like, how do you think about time management generally?
I mean, I look at everything from like a 1,000-foot view.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm looking at my time and how I prioritize things, I look at the whole year first, and I then break it down into, okay, well, if this is what I want to do in this next year, and I really keep my goals minimum and my priorities minimum, then how do I break that down by quarter, by month, by week? And that allows me to really play a long game and not have to like urgently get everything done. I don't operate well, and our team doesn't operate well, and I really don't think it's sustainable to do everything at once.
Right.
And to have like a, panic about doing all the things at one time. So I try and look at doing the least amount of things the best that I can. That's sort of my strategy.
I'm curious, as you've gone through this, like what's changed? You've gone from no revenue to hundreds of thousands to millions, tens of millions, like a significant revenue line items happening as you've scaled. What's changed for you heading into the, scale into the significant revenue?
Like personally or business?
Business and life, but yeah, I'm curious about the personal side too, but
not much.
Yeah.
Truthfully, like like I have a lot of freedom of choice in my life, which is like all I could ever ask for.
Yeah.
And the ability to, I had my daughter and I was able to take a significant amount of time just away from the business entirely, and it ticked along and actually grew without me. So I think that's huge on a personal level, is really that freedom of choice. It's not like if someone told me what we had done, like revenue wise, 7 years ago, I would have never believed them. Like I still can't really conceptualize what has happened. And I feel very sort of distant from it because that's never been my primary focus, which I know is very easy to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And so on a personal level, it's this freedom of choice in everything that I do and how I spend my time and all those things. And on a business level, I think for me, it has been a process of kind of like letting go and surrendering to the fact that at a certain point, as much as the business is super easy to run, and if everything went sideways tomorrow, I know we could run it with a very lean operation.
Yeah.
It is still lean. I don't have to do everything, and I have to just trust the people that are in place and not feel like I need to have my hands in all the pots. And that is hard to do as the founder.
Yeah. Yeah. We've called it giving away your Legos, where you get to the
Yes.
point where you're like, but I really want to play with it. And you're like, but I have too many Legos. I need to start giving it up because I can't manage them all.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have
it's
to
hard.
do that.
It's really hard because inherently, as somebody who starts a business, it's like, it's yours. And so giving it away feels really, really scary. And you have to have a lot of trust in the people you give it to.
Yeah. It can be harder if you ever have to take it back too. Cause you're like, I'm glad I got rid of it. Now I have to take it back. Yes. Yeah. So is that the hardest thing in terms of any other thing, big changes and how you've had to operate as an entrepreneur is going through this scale?
Something that I wouldn't say it's hard, but I would say it's just as I've matured, I think I really try and take a proactive lens with everything that I do. And I try and qualify everything through the lens of like, maybe this is like hard right now, but it's hard for a purpose that's going to pay off 6 months, a year, 2 years from now? And really looking at everything as seasons. Like, even when you get to a place where you have the freedom of choice in your business, it's still hard. There's still lots of decisions to make. You're still integrated in everything. And so you're going to have these like months or periods where you're more heavily involved and it feels exhausting. And then you're going to have all this time where you're kind of like, okay, it's ticking along really smoothly. So I think looking at everything as a season and not going into panic mode really ever. Yeah. Because now with all this time behind me, I'm like, everything passes. Everything changes and everything comes in waves. So it will always come back around if you can remain patient. And I get why a lot of people quit their businesses when things get hard, because they're like, well, this is going to last forever. Like, I'm out. I can't do it. Yeah. But if you just can have the mental like fortitude to understand that there will always be a resolution of some kind. It may not be what you think it's going to be, and you can't control it the way you want to control it, but it will come around.
The season will pass. Do you intentionally build in those downtimes?
I do. Yeah, I do.
How do you do that?
Well, our business, like, we don't work on Fridays generally. Okay. So we never work on Fridays. Everyone kind of has a flex day on Fridays, so they can choose how they want to use that time. If there's things they want to work on, they can do so without, like, our community isn't on. We don't do customer service on Fridays, so that's actually really freeing. Also, like, I'm pretty rigid and our team's pretty rigid about, like, a work-life balance, quote unquote. I don't think it's a really balance. It's just like a flow. But we work 9 to 5. Yeah. Period. And for me, like, I generally am done around 4-ish. I try to be, so that I can really like take over with my daughter. How I built it in for myself is I prioritize things outside of work, which for the first couple of years was really hard to wrap my head around. But I schedule like my fitness and my dance classes like it's a meeting for work.
So
like,
it's in the calendar, like 5 o'clock dance class.
It.
So it's like, sorry guys, I got an important meeting.
Yeah, like I have a dance class every week that I go to, and it is a pain in the butt to get to, but I'm like, I know when I do this, I will be the happiest person on the planet, and it makes me so joyful. So I'm doing it, and that makes me better at everything else I do. And then like my husband and I, we try and plan for, you know, a date night at least once a week, or at least some time, just the two of us at some point. And my friends, like I plan way in advance with my friends. So I think it's making sure that I have a world and an ecosystem outside of just the business, and having big boundaries around when I operate the business, which in the most incredible way, because I operate in that way and our team operates in that way, we're all aligned, our clients do as well. So a lot of our clients are doing 4-day work weeks. A lot of our clients have these like big boundaries, and they have these very like flowy balances. And we're like, this is going to build a peaceful, purposeful, profitable business.
So you're intentional even about sharing with your clients when they come on board, hey, this is how we work here.
Oh yeah, they're very aware.
They can model it, but also they can respect it.
Exactly.
It makes it easier for you to honor it for yourself.
Yeah, very clear.
Great.
Yeah, very, very clear. So, and people like it. They're like, wow, you're able to do that? That's amazing. I'm like, of course I am. It's my business. But it took me a long time to get to a place where I was like, this is okay for us to do.
But I think that's profound, because I think a lot of people, even the books I've read around this, it's all around managing yourself. Yeah. But you've extended it, which I think makes it so much more scalable, systematized, of like, it's not just managing you. You've said, my business works this way, my team works this way, I work this way, even my clients are aware of and can work this way. That makes it a lot easier than just, I say no and I've got boundaries, right? Because you're always battling.
Totally. And I don't think it would work if you...
I'm myself here.
I'm like, is this personal? No, but I really like, I can't actually imagine it working if I didn't extend it to my team and my business. And I feel like the people that I work with, we are all very aligned. And I think also, if I hadn't gone through what I went through with that sort of massive burnout, I wouldn't be able to appreciate my downtime as much. And I wouldn't be able to appreciate that, like, there's a whole world outside of just work. Yeah. And it's cheesy, but people always say it's like at the end of the day on your deathbed, like your laptop's not going to hug you and say, I love you. Right. So like,
and you're not going to be like, I wish I posted one more video.
I wish I did one more video, or I wish I worked, you know what I mean? It's just like, and that's where that long game mentality comes in too. It's just like, if you're in it for the long game, these little micro things that you think matter so much right now, they just don't matter.
Right. Into your business, I mean, I know you've got a system for teaching others, which I'd like to talk a little bit about, but just in terms of how you run it, you're like the general flow of how people are finding you, I think is, you know, and how you bring them in as a customer. It's YouTube. Do you do sales calls still? Is it YouTube to sales? YouTube nurture sales call?
It kind of varies.
Well,
so
I'm not going to get it as well as you will.
I'm like, you can keep
let me explain it to you. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So there's a couple different avenues. So the main one is YouTube, and YouTube, we call it like the YouTube scaling funnel. So it's kind of like top of the funnel is like our more broad audience videos, and generally that's going to send people to a lead magnet of some kind. So right now that's like a PDF ebook. And then the middle of the funnel, we're probably going to send you to like our webinar. And then the bottom of the funnel, we'll send you generally to directly to book a call. So
and these are all different types of YouTube
types of
videos.
content,
And
yeah.
whether it's top, middle, or bottom of funnel depends on the topic. Sort of
yeah.
determining how
Yes.
hot the lead is.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
Okay.
how educated the lead's going to be by the time they get to that sales call. Because if I send
Right.
somebody who's like a newbie,
Yeah.
who's sort of just like searching around for how to make money online.
How to YouTube. Yes, versus
they're not going to be a great lead.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, okay, we need to educate you on like what we do and how we do it and why it's beneficial to you before we would get you to that point. So it's a longer sales cycle, but it makes sense. So YouTube, and then lead magnet of some kind, and then nurture sequence, and then book a call, or just straight to book a call. And then
And nurture is email.
email. Yeah. So really it's just YouTube and email for us at this point. We don't really use much else.
Yeah.
And we do a live webinar every once in a while, and we do live case studies quite often. So we'll do like an interview with our clients who are doing really well every other month generally, if not more than that. And then we have, once I started to grow and I had a whole bunch of organic traffic and we had like quite a few successful seasons in the business, I was like, okay, well, we have capital to reinvest. And so let's put it into paid ads. So we do Meta advertising, and then we do a teeny bit of YouTube right now, which we're just testing out. And it's the same process. So they'll go from the ad to either the lead magnet or the webinar.
And then when they get into your program, right, it's course, community, coaching calls?
Correct. Yeah.
Any other, and is it all one product?
It's all one product. Yeah.
So you sell one thing, basically.
One thing. Yeah, we
Okay.
keep it very simple. I don't like complication.
Right. Yeah. No. Hey, this is great. And so they're coming in. They're taking the course. They're part of an online community.
Yep.
And then they can come to weekly coaching
we have
calls?
2 weekly coaching calls. Yeah.
Okay. Plus support contact.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so for the one product thing, this is interesting because I do see this divide of some people focusing down and others, broadening and diversifying. And you coach a lot of people. So how do you see is there a time and place for the diversification across lots of products, or do you think it's always better just go deep on one?
I'm just a deep on one. I've
Yeah.
done all of it. So I've tried it all. And I hate value ladders. I think they're stupid. And I just think if you're going to help people, help them in one thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the great part about that too is like you have the one offer, which allows you to go so deep with the people that are coming in, because it's going to be a small amount of people in comparison to the people that are like engaging in your free content, that your free content is serving. I don't even know. I think we have I'm guessing right now, but I think it's like 20 million people watch my YouTube channel. So like, there's a lot of people that I've been able to help for free with a lot of very valuable information. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you want to work with us and actually you're going to take it seriously and do the work and get results from it, there's one place that you can go.
Right.
And so the only diversification that I would say, and it's really not, is we have our front end offer. And then with our most successful clients, we have a limited group in a back end offer, which is like our highest level of working with myself and my team. And we do a retreat every year with them. But that's it. That's all. Yeah.
Wow.
And because I've done it both ways and I had like a low ticket offer to the high ticket, I'm just like, no, it's complicated. I don't like it. It's too much.
Easier on you, easier on your team, and more profitable.
I look at an online course as a business. So if you have more than one, even if that other online course is like a $97 product, it's still another business. It still requires customer support, marketing, sales, all of those things. So you're then diversifying your attention. I call it like horizontal scaling.
Yeah.
It's like you're diversifying all of your attention for something that's actually not giving you a return, and you're getting clients who aren't taking it as seriously, so you're getting less results.
As opposed to the vertical scaling.
With
which you're
one
doing.
offer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other ways you vertically scale? Like in terms of people are like, look, I've got this one thing. How do I go deeper?
No, not really. It's just honestly keeping it to a very simplified structure. I think the biggest mistake people make when they're trying to do that vertical scaling with that one offer is they're like, well, this can't be enough, so let me complicate it. And they'll start doing like one-on-ones within that. And I'm like, no, that's not scalable, because again, you're getting yourself trapped into a cycle of not having enough time. And you're doing one-on-ones on top of your curriculum, where when you have a legacy business, which is what we teach people to create, they should be able to go through your curriculum and not actually have to talk to you. They can if they need to. We have the support. They should be able to go through your curriculum and get the outcome that they're looking for without having to speak to you. And so adding in the one-on-one creates complication for everybody, and it's sucking up all your time, which defeats the purpose of the entire thing.
What do you mean by legacy business?
So legacy business for us, that's what we call the businesses that we've created, and then also the businesses we help people create, which essentially means that if it's morbid, but if you were to die tomorrow, your business can still make an income and an impact without you there.
But it also means you can go on vacation. You don't
That's
have
the
to
thing.
die. You could just
If you don't want
spend
to be
time with your
morbid about
daughter.
it, it's like, let me just, like, I'm going on
Yeah.
vacation next week and I don't have anything to worry about because, like, I know my team's got it covered. And a lot of our clients are moms. And,
Right.
or they're like, we've had a lot of pregnant women come into our program and they're like, I need to get this thing up and running by the time I have the baby. And it's happened.
Yeah.
And they're able to be present with their child and still make an income, even if they're not working, which is the whole purpose of it. Because I just think for me, I'm like, with all of the lessons I've had and with, like, the health scare that I had, my sort of idea about this business is like it's supposed to complement your life. It's not supposed to complicate it. And
Right.
so if it's chaotic and there's so many things you have to look after, is it a business or is it a job? And like, what are you in it for?
Yeah, and back to some of what we talked about before of the sort of surface level content versus and having to be always on and producing it versus going deeper and having an impact. I feel like that having the deeper an impact allows you to do exactly this legacy concept, legacy business.
It really is like a one-stop shop. So it's not all of the information that you could possibly put in your offer, but it's the most efficient roadmap that you can provide people to achieve the outcome that only you can help them achieve. And so they have everything they need to do that without having to rely on you or your time.
So they're trying to achieve an outcome, and we want to talk transformation, but yes, an outcome. And you said the most efficient, which I think is interesting because I think sometimes everyone's like, and this, and this, and this. And you should also know, here's the, yes, right? I've been guilty of that. Let me tell you everything about this. But it was interesting. Like you just kind of brushed it over pretty quickly there, but sort of the most efficient path to the outcome.
Yeah.
So
I'm militant on this.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is because the biggest mistake people make when they create an online course, and it's understandable because you're like, well, I'm going to teach something. So of course I need to teach everything. And the problem is like we work with people who are experts. So they know a lot. So we call it the curse of the expert because when you're such an expert in what you do, you just could go on for days about
they want to give you a degree.
Yes. But people are not paying for that. People are paying to achieve that moment where they're like, I've done it. I got to the outcome that I wanted to achieve. Thank you so much. And you got me here because you saved me time.
Yeah.
So people are paying to save time and achieve the result. So I actually would say this is the hardest thing to do when creating a really great course is when you create the curriculum to the process that we kind of teach is like brain dump everything that you could possibly teach. But before you do that, identify the starting point and the ending point. So the zero state and the hero state of your ideal client, the curriculum is going to bridge the gap. So if you wanted to take somebody from this starting point to this hero state, what's included? What needs to be in there? And then start chopping. And only include the things that actually are 1000% necessary to getting to that hero state.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, what happens? People get into your program and they're like, this is a lot.
You're like
Then
the
they
Marie
don't do
Kondo
it.
of content, right? It's like, does this spark joy? Is this
spark joy?
necessary to get you there?
Truly,
Yes.
one of my greatest pleasures in life, I'm about to do this actually next week, is to clean out my closets.
Yeah, nice.
I am a very organized person. I hate clutter in content as well. But yeah, it's for the benefit of your business at the end of the day, because if people come in and there's too much information, they're going to quit.
Right.
And then
you get overwhelmed.
Yep. And then they're going to say, this course sucks. I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't achieve any result from it. So what's that going to do? It's going to kill your business ultimately.
Right. And you market a lot with results.
Yep, that's our main thing. And I'm like, when you have results, you have to market a little bit less. Like, you don't have to do as much. You don't have to push as hard. I actually get very, this is going to be not a great thing
but there
to say,
are a lot,
like,
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm like, this is giving me a little trouble, but I just don't trust people who have to like shout from the rooftops about how great they are at what they do without any results to show for it. I don't understand.
Like
There's
where
a lot
they
of that.
just tell their story
Yeah.
as opposed to the results they've delivered
Yep.
for others. Yeah,
Yep.
because there are some out there who have a great story and have done quite well with it, even in books and things like that, where it's like, here's how to make money or here's how to do something. And it's just their story and is maybe there's substance to it, maybe there isn't, but you're sort of, I think you're right. You use this method of sharing the results that your students have achieved. Because even if they have achieved it individually or you've achieved the success individually, if you can't duplicate it for others,
It's not
where's the value
works.
in what you're teaching? So I think really focusing on, and it seems like everything you engineer is around delivering the result, and then you sort of flywheel that back into like, and look at the result we delivered. We can get that for you too.
Yes.
And we know we can. We
Yes.
prove it time and time again.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's useful for anyone out there marketing almost
Totally.
anything, right?
And
Outcome focused.
What's really fascinating about that too is we, as a test, I think it was 2 years ago now, I was like, what if we just started a separate YouTube channel with all of our client results? Because we have a lot of videos, and I was like, no one's going to watch this.
Yeah.
No one's going to
Just
pay
sort of
attention to it. Just
stories
as like a
of their
storage.
results.
Like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
just put it as like a storage channel. And I think we have like 3,700 subscribers on it. And we do our client case studies on it, and the amount of people who attend those and actually are interested. And then the amount of people who get into the program and they're like, I want to be on
Right.
that channel.
Yeah.
Like, that's their goal.
The inspiration.
The inspiration is like, I want to be
Yeah.
interviewed and I want to be on that channel. And so that was a hidden benefit that I didn't even really think about.
Yeah.
But it's become this goal for
Yeah.
our clients.
Well, plus with even, I mean, that's a good sub count, but low compared to your other channel.
Yeah, totally.
But I bet they're far more
They're
qualified,
focused. They're
right?
way more qualified, and they're really focused. Like,
Yeah, so
they're-
your ideal customer is there.
Yeah, they're there
Yeah.
because they want to see.
Not to mention the
Results.
inspiration in the journey, even that once they are a customer, to be able to go there and say, okay,
Yeah.
you are delivering results.
Yeah, and the
Amazing.
amount of
Cool.
people that I've interviewed for case studies now that
Yeah.
are like, you don't understand. Like, I dreamt about this moment. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, this is great. Now we're here.
Awesome. But if you could go back and talk to Sunny as a little girl, what would you say?
Oh, man. I think I would say trust yourself first and foremost, because I would say anything that has sort of gotten me into trouble or into a bad situation, it's when I've second guessed my intuition. And I think that there's so much that you need to know in order to like run a business and scale a business and all of that stuff. But I think people don't talk enough about it's a lot of just being able to tune out the noise and tune into what ultimately feels right for you, because someone else's definition of success and what they're doing may not be the same as yours. So at the end of the day, you really have to make decisions from a place of, is this the right thing for me and my business and my team? And that's the biggest factor, I think, to like long-term success. So I would say, yeah, trust yourself. And that goes to like personal and professional. And it's okay to take your time. Slow down.
Yeah.
I know that now. I've come full circle.
Yeah.
But I definitely have a patience problem, and I feel like I was quite reactive in a lot of moments, early stages of my business. So
Although impatience can be a real strength. I mean,
can.
I'm still impatient.
it's
but
a double-edged
yeah,
sword.
yes,
Yeah, it
yes,
depends on
yeah,
when you use
yeah,
it and how you use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you define success?
Peace.
Peace.
That's it.
It's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, that's the only way to define it. And that's what we tell people. We're like, this will be a peaceful, purposeful, and profitable business that you build. It's not always going to be peaceful.
Yeah.
You're going to have moments in the beginning is hard because it's hard. Business is hard. But it's fueling your ability to have that freedom of choice. And that's what allows you the ability to have peace in your life. So if I wake up and I'm feeling chaotic every day, I could be a billionaire and I hate my life.
Right.
So peace for me is the definition of success.
What didn't I ask? Anything? Anywhere else you wanted to go, or other things we should talk
I don't
about?
think so. I don't know. That was really great.
Yeah.
Those are good questions.
Thanks. Peace is. This is you
That's
kind of
the
like.
first time you've heard
sort-
peace? Wow.
Well, it's a great measure, and it makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
That's it. And that comes at so many different, like in so many different ways for people. And I think that's why I really like caution people against looking at external measures of success, because I know a lot of people who have hit those external measures and then they're like, okay, now what? So I just don't think there's anything outside of you that can really make you feel a long-lasting, sustainable feeling of success outside of feeling like you're able to do what you want when you want and you have a level of peace every single day.
It's a great measure of success.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank That was amazing. Thank you, Sunny.
you.
Appreciate
Thanks
you being
for
on.
having me.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.